Paul Beary, Limerick under-20 hurling manager. Paul, you're back in action. Well, I suppose you're in action this Saturday against Cork in the LIT Gaelic grounds. I suppose, what's the mood like in camp just to be back and to be able to play this championship that looked for so long that it wasn't going to go ahead?
Yeah, the mood is positive, Jack, to be honest with you. Look, it was probably thrown at us relatively late in the day, up to midweek last week. There was still uncertainty as to whether it was going ahead or not. But then word came through that it was going ahead, and then kind of I suppose we had to nail down the fixture then at that point. So we only got back training actually just Thursday last week, had a session at the weekend and another couple of sessions this week. So it isn't ideal in terms of a preparation for a championship match that you'd like. But look, we had a good chat in terms of the first night we went back there, and we had a quick chat and just we said we have to park all that stuff in terms of like what would be ideal in terms of preparation and what isn't, and we are where we are. We have to make the most of what we do, maximize the return in every training session, and get on with it. And just delighted, really, to be honest with you, for the players, especially for all the commitment given by the backroom team, and for the players' families as well, that we're finally getting this played, for something that was supposed to be on originally back in July. But I'm glad it's finally happening, and even at this late in the day in the year.
And just that kind of 6-7 weeks intervening period, I know you're very ready to play Cork at late October. What was that period like in between? Were you on to the lads, or were they left to their own devices as such?
No, we've always kept a connection with them during lockdown 1 and lockdown 2. Obviously on a restricted basis in terms of no group training permit or anything like that. So it was largely left to their own individualised training. So our S&C teams under Mark Lyons would have been probably had the closest connection with them in that respect, and just to make sure they kept their own individualised S&C plans, that they did it kind of by themselves and at their homes and that, and that worked out quite well. They're a good bunch, and so far they're well versed now at this point in time, in terms of things like S&C and nutrition and all of that, and in terms of doing keeping their skills up as well over the time. So we just did as much as we possibly could given the restricted circumstances.
And you're obviously playing a Cork side that beat you last year in the quarterfinals. Is that playing on the mind with some crossover in players, or is 2020 a total new year as it is for everyone else?
Well, you know what? It's just seems such a long time ago now, Jack, to be honest with you. But I mean, it's probably in the minds of some. At the same time, it's that was played in June 2019, and so. But I mean, it is there, and it's just I suppose we have them at home, and we thought it would be a summer game at home, so circumstances are different in that respect. But we're totally well aware of the quality that all Cork sides bring to the table, and especially this Cork side, because they would have won the under-17 All-Ireland as it was 3 years ago. So we've been well aware for some time now in terms of the pedigree that we're up against, especially against this Cork side. Yeah.
And you've seen them already. They obviously beat Kerry in their quarter-final. Did you learn much from that game, or seems it 6 weeks ago, is it kind of meaningless at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, we were examining closely at the time, to be honest with you, and it was an interesting match in from a tactical perspective, I suppose. But we learned we garnered as much as we could out of it. But it does seem like a long time ago now, 6 or 7 weeks ago. And I know I think on the night in particular they were missing a few as well. So look, you extract as much information you can about the opposition, but largely, by and large, the build-up from our perspective has been mainly on our own game plan.
And for an under-20 game, it's going to be shown live on TG Car. I suppose it's brilliant exposure for your lads that will be hopefully breaking onto the senior team in the years to come.
Yeah, well, that's the big plan, Jack, to be honest with you. I mean, and myself and the backroom team all involved, and the commitment. We've taken an attitude really from day one that you don't necessarily prepare for one game. You actually try to implement the structures and the standards to give an insight to the players of what's needed if they want to kind of progress onto the senior squad under John Kiley, in the future. So that's the overriding kind of objective there, and that's been our goal from a long way out. Yeah.
And you obviously have four lads that are currently with John Kiley's senior setup. What have they been like in training? Have they been bringing their own bit? Obviously, as the seniors prepare for an All-Ireland final.
Yeah, I mean, we've kept in touch with them as best we can, and on a remote basis or whatever, and they're very, very familiar with the players on the panel through schools, through academies, through clubs, and everything like that. So we've kept connected with them as best they can, and obviously, they've got great experience as well, being in with John and the squad and everything in terms of the training standards and everything like that.
And obviously the All-Ireland final, senior final, will be the showpiece event of the weekend. But yourselves and the minors on Saturday can really start a brilliant weekend for Limerick Hurling. Is the mood around the camp kind of realising there's an All-Ireland final the day after that you can start that weekend?
Yeah, it's remarkable. Like, you never get a weekend like it. You'll never get a year like it. But it is what it is. And I suppose we're trying to stay in our own little bubble at the same time. And but hopefully it'll be a great weekend all around for Limerick. Yeah.
And I just see the Christmas decoration there in the back left corner. How strange is it? I know 2020 is a different year to every other year we've had, but how strange is preparing with Christmas decorations and just the cold weather and everything about it?
Yeah, it seems crazy at times, to be honest with you. Reminded me a bit of kind of the first couple of years when we were fortunate enough with the Beary to get to Munster clubs, and the in-between period, so to speak, between a Munster club final and preparing for an All-Ireland semi-final and that. So it is cold, damp, wet weather, but I have to say, hats off to the players. They've always adopted a very good, positive attitude, great reflection on themselves and all the people who invested time in them over the years. They've, myself and talking on behalf of the backroom team, all of us we're certainly privileged to be involved with them. It's a lovely age to be in terms of an age group to work with them, and they've responded excellently. There's been a lot of disruption, a lot of setbacks, etc., a lot of frustration along the way, but they've always responded in a positive manner, which is a great reflection on them all.